All right. So this is going to be episode 4, where we're actually going to jump straight into basically building a sports betting data scraper. And obviously we're doing the AFL as our challenge sport, medium liquidity, tons of volume, and just something I've never done before. As I mentioned here, I like using Claude 3.5 Sonnet to build any coding or modeling or scrapers in this case. So we're just going to dive straight in, and this is going to be quite a long, slow video just because this does take a lot of time, similar to my episode 1 and 2. If you could just type in, build me a scraper for this, and it worked first time, everyone would have really good betting models and everything like that. So you obviously need to be careful with anti-scraping measures. You need to be careful with, I don't even think the legality of it, but websites can block your IP address if they think you're scraping things. And then obviously there's workarounds with that I'm not going to get into, but you just want to be a little bit careful when you're scraping and make sure you take the time to do things right. Because once you have a scraper, that's perfect, right? That's all you need to move forward to collect new data and append or add that data to existing games in the future as well. So it makes sense to take an extra, sometimes a couple of hours to build it right, or actually get more information than you might need in your model. So that's why we're doing this first, rather than deciding what our model should be. Because once we have all the data, it makes life a lot easier in terms of building out the core logic and edge ideas for a sport. Okay, so I'm going to jump straight in. Now, this is Claude.ai. Most people will already be familiar with it. 3.7 Sonnet is the best one. Sometimes the UX changes. You've got all of these options. You've also got these. I'm going to put on extended thinking here. Now, that's usually going to be used for kind of like long coding tasks. But as we're going to be doing this today, this is going to be pretty close to that. So my first prompt is going to be massive, right? I'm going to talk you through bits of it, and then I'm going to pause the video whilst I'm writing out other parts, just so this video isn't 3 hours long. But essentially what we want to do is give it some instructions very early on that are very broad, okay? Now, sometimes they're a little bit funny with building scrapers, just because it does talk about like terms of service of websites, but it should kind of get over itself at some point, and it should work for you. So I'm going to say, can you build a scraper to extract data from this website, afl.com? The goal, giving it goals is also a good idea as well. So this is just our overview prompt, basically telling it what we're going to do. Now, there's some key parts to this. You want to give it just an overview, like we are going to use this afl.com.au. So I'm going to just put that in there because .au as well. And then the individual matches that they know we want to go into. So when we went through this in a separate video, this website has tons of stats, which is great, but it also means that sometimes it can be a little bit difficult in terms of getting the right information. So the best way to do this to start is to probably take this, is to go to matches. You can go to fixtures or whatever. Because when we get all of our URLs, they're generally going to just be from this main, link. So if we just copy this link here, copy link address, match report is actually a different one. So it doesn't really matter if we go to match report or not. Match report doesn't look great, but it comes in here. So one of our two options is either this summary or just this raw matches file. Okay. Now, the only reason we need to do this is because when we get all of the game data, it will be in the same format. Now, That's a separate mini scraper, is what I call them, just to extract the games. You could do it manually in half an hour, but kind of like, what's the point? So what we want to do is we want to say the URLs will be in this form. So the thing with Claude, the key thing you need to give it is you have to give it, I just realized my face is going to be in the screenshots. You have to give it the URLs and the key information. So if I say, so please ask and request info you need in regards to inspect elements and any rendering of data. Okay, so what this means is if we right click inspect on the side, you can see elements, you can see console, sources, and a lot of these data, especially things like these massive tables, will come from specific things. So they might come from something within network. And to be honest, I have no idea what I'm doing here, but usually when I'm prompted, Claude can tell me how this comes in, okay? But all we want to do is we want to give it all of the key information all at once that we want. And then we'll see how close it gets on our first go and go from there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just get this kind of information and ask it what I want, and then I'll come and show you what the prompt looks like. So as you can see, we have some extra information in here for each match, yada, yada, yada. All this data should be easy to extract from the header. Just had a couple of screenshots here. Whatever tab we are on, I'm going to say within each match. Doesn't make a difference on the actual data. So after we've collected, so then the match info. So after we've done that, we want to click one of these tabs, right? Now, I don't think we need much from this. Now we do have some timeline info, interchanges made, etc. Lineups, form guide, etc. I think we can go straight to either teams or lineups. So team stats. I'm going to just give it all of this and say, can we export the team stats next? So just make sure you say team stats. On this page, by stat and split by team correctly. So then we can see all this. You can zoom out, give it some screenshots. Let's take it from here, give it a couple of screenshots, because we can use all this in the future. Now, obviously, we want to have a player-based model in general, but this will be pretty useful. Take all that. I think that's it. Yeah. After team stats has been exported, I'm going to say collected because I kind of want it to export everything at once. Now, I don't think this is going to be a one-shot in terms of design. Like, I can't see Claude nailing this straight away, but the more info you can give it in the first prompt, the better. So it kind of makes sense to take a good, even like half an hour to write everything, add as many screenshots as you can, and also ask it to ask you what it needs. That's a big one. So then after team stats, lineups, we may as well get the lineups, I think. Yeah, sure. Let's get lineups. Potentially do that in the other way around, but it's fine. Collected. Go to the lineups page or tab. this info, screenshots below. So we've added that one as well. Yep. And then timeline. This would actually be some cool data. I'm not sure how we would particularly parse this, but it does look kind of cool. So I might try and get this because timing of events is important as well. I'm going to just say next, go to timeline tab and collecting and export all this data. Because one thing we can do is even if our scraper just exports it in a kind of funky way, I'm going to say about this little scroll here as well. So once we've exported all the data, we can then build a script that's more like a converter. And because in my experience, getting the scraper to work properly is the most difficult thing, if we can kind of get this working properly in a few goes, even if it's a bit messy, we can then have like a converter script that runs, and then that can just be done in our model. So that only takes a second, whereas this usually takes a while. Player stats. So that should be good for now. There's a couple of other things we need to do. First, we need to talk about getting the player stats per team, because you can see that these are done just for this match. This should be pretty obvious for it, but sometimes it's better just to say. And you can see they've got advanced as well. So you can see here, basic, both, etc. I'm going to just show it this page with player stats on the top. Hopefully that will be good. Yeah. Show it this one as well. I'm sure it could work this out. This is probably in a HTML or JSON file within the site. So what I'm basically asking here is that would it be easier to go into expect element of this and basically try and find out where this is rather than messing around with anything else? So it's obviously going to be in like network or something like that, but it might render from some other source and I have no idea. But similar to what's happened before, it can basically tell me where it is and go from there. Or it can say, have a look for this. Any questions, please ask first, right? So this is a key one. So, within inspect element or sources or network, etc. You can also say I'm non-technical, so talk me through each step concisely. This is something I like to say as well, especially recently, just because sometimes they can basically either talk in terms of fluff, or they can just say, go into this and look for this, but I don't, we don't know what we're doing. We're not devs. So yeah, hit enter. Hopefully this will work. Okay, nice. So this thinking mode that we have on is kind of important. It basically just helps us talk through each part. And you can see it running and building something out now. One thing you can also say is explain how to run this. It should tell you at the end, but we'll see how we go. Also, if you have a look, this one that we're on, then you've got an installation guide, has given us tons of code in one output because we're on this extended mode. That's one of the reasons why you want to be on that mode, just because we can do a lot more in one prompt. And we'll see how we go from this in a sec. Okay, so how to use this. This is good that it's put this on the end. Now, if you're really, really new, these steps will take a little while to get used to, even though this actually shouldn't really be too bad. I know it looks a bit kind of overwhelming if you haven't used anything like this before. It's honestly not that bad. Just follow the steps. If you literally don't understand anything, just ask the tool part of it. Now, I understand most of this, so I'm going to just do this separately for a second, and we'll see where we are in 1 sec. So this is already installed, and we'll go from there. Okay, so I did actually want to ask it something here as well. So I've just copied this. Then we can go into our file. We can have a new text document. We can call this. Okay, they call this a text document, which is a bit annoying. So there's multiple issues here. Get a new tab, file, save as. So you want to save it like this, I believe. Again, this kind of helps that I'm not technical because I have no idea what I'm doing. Okay, so it's still not working because this is the type, the text document. We need this as a .js. So again, it kind of shows how bad with this I am because I've only used Python. So when it comes to anything like this, it just doesn't make any sense. But all you need to do is just go back to the actual tool and ask it. So you can see here, this is why it's kind of saying that. Either save it as with quotes. Okay, so that shouldn't be too bad. So if we go new tab, add this in, file, save as. See if that works. Perfect. So you can see, even though I didn't know how to do that, it took 1 second. Then we can just edit this, paste in our actual code. Okay, I accidentally used the shortcode to stop the recording then. So paste this, save this, go back here. I like to always check that it's just working. You can use anything to open it. Just use Notepad for now. Okay, all good. So now this is in our AFL file, wherever you have your file. I'm just going to leave it here for now, and then we're good to go. So now you can say, okay, go back here, scroll up, save the file, open a command prompt in that folder, run this. Don't know what that does, but let's give it a try. Okay, so again, all of these steps you kind of could do with learning. It took me a while, but it really doesn't take that long to learn. Then this will do something. We can feed this back here. Then we can install this Puppeteer, which is just like a kind of like a plugin software sort of thing. Then we can say, we'll do that again. Replace URL with any of this. So you can see, added the packages. As you can see from your screenshot, blah, 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 blah. So then we can copy this. Yeah, sure. So this is going to use a headless browser. We'll see if that works in a second. Okay, so now we basically can test the running of this to see if it actually works. Now, I don't have much hope that this will actually work, to be honest, but this is where you're getting to the like back and forth debugging phase. But we'll see what happens. A lot of the time, these sites have like anti-scraping measures, especially for like headless browsers and Puppeteer or Selenium. So we'll see what happens. I almost don't want this to work perfectly first time because it will make people think that this is too easy. Okay, so there's a bunch of errors in there. All I usually do is copy this back across. We can put this back in now. We can see if it exported anything. So this package lock. I don't know what any of this means, but we'll have a look. Now, if these aren't too big, so I don't know what any of that means. Let's have a look with package. Nothing worked in there. Scraper, node modules. No. So it doesn't look like much worked there. All I would do is say this was the output. And I would also ask it to update it, but say nothing worked. Can you update the script fully? Plus also so this is where you get started on the back and forth, and this does take a while, I'm not gonna lie. It's probably the most frustrating part, I would say, just of like the build itself, because especially if you haven't done this before, you can just hit a roadblock for 10, 20 hours and not know whether you're making any progress. I like to say also, please don't explore anything other than you need. Can we test whether anything is first? Feel free to use non-headless on terminal. So all I'm asking here is basically, you don't have to use the like behind the scenes headless browser, because sometimes, especially early on, we want to see if our page is actually working. So whether it's getting to any page or any tab, because it might not even be loading the data, which is what happens a lot. Because if it doesn't look like it's landed on it, it's probably not going to work. Another type of software you can use is Selenium. That's what some of the other scrapers are built in, but we'll see what happens with this one now. So it's saying replace this. So all we're going to do is we're going to come in here, get rid of all this, save this, then blah, 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 blah. So now we can just run this again. So this is what the crawler sees. Looks like the main information did load fine. So I'm not really sure why we didn't get any outputs. So what we can do is we can scrape this and we can say, looks like the page loaded fine. More info was there. And then we can see package, AFL basic match info. So this didn't work though for some reason, right? So you can see it's getting a bunch of info, but it's just not getting it from the right place. So we can screenshot this as well and just say, this is not the right approach. Can you please use Selenium/Python for this? And just use the structure pages I sent and ask me individually what /where info is based on the HTML page /inspect elements. So what I'm trying to get here is I'm trying to get Claude to ask me to go into each part and just inspect elements and tell me what it is looking for, because otherwise it's just guessing. It's kind of blind. I also think Selenium in Python works better, so that's just kind of like something I think will do a lot better in this particular scenario. But yeah, we'll see what it comes out with here. Just going to pause the video. Okay, so now what it's doing is it's built out this Python Selenium script. We've added it as a Python script. So you can see AFL scraper Python file in our doc. Then if we come back over here, we should see we need to install Selenium. So we can come back over to our command prompt. We can not do that. We can do that. That'll install Selenium if you don't already have it. Make sure Chrome browser is installed. I think we already have all this. Then we got all this. And then we can try this one. AFL underscore scraper. Okay. Sure. Hella annoying, but whatever. Now this should run. Should open the page. So now we'll see if this works any better, or if it's just not meant to be. And this is where a lot of the time comes in. So I don't want this video to be like 600 hours long. It's clicked lineups. That's a good sign. We'll see if it clicks team stats and player stats as well, where it just stops at lineups. It's also a good sign that lineups actually kind of, opened. So it saved something, but obviously we saw that it wasn't that good. You can see that nothing worked. It looks like it's even struggling to find the basic info again. So let's just say this is the right approach, but you need to request where to look. Currently, it's just random. Remember the screenshots, how the site looked. And here's the HTML of the URL page. So what you can do, this does kind of burn some of the credits. But if we go on the main URL, Control U, you can see we can copy this. The issue a little bit is that this tends to be pretty hefty. Yeah. So we can't really copy this, but what I'm trying to get is I'm trying to get it to prompt me to look for particular things. So let's say 100, for example, or 119. It's quite an unusual number. So if we look for 119 in here, you can see that we find it here. So although that looks like that's a player stat part, right? If we scroll down, you can see that we have this information here. So we could copy this and say, this seems to be useful, and give it this. And just prompt it again. You need to find the specific paths we are looking for, such as some of chunk of code I found here with a bunch of info. Also, potentially ask me where and how this falls through. Because it's still not doing this, which is a bit annoying. Sometimes it's good to have multiple accounts up and ask each one different things. So you can try and ask one to say, where does this come from? And then pull it over to this one and say, it comes from here. That works quite well as well. But we'll see what he says, or it. So the thing with this is it kind of is going to get the right information for that one thing, but not for all of it. Interestingly, this 119 point, this one here could be useful. So this is basically saying that something in resources, some sort of API, let me just get rid of that. So we could say something like, I think player script info is in here. And this is where, like, if you are a little bit technical, it could help. Although this doesn't actually look right. I'm looking at it. This just seemed like actual player information, but I think that's just this. So I'm not going to bother with that. But if you imagine you're having another Claude or any, any of the newer ones that potentially work better, you can say, can you find where XYZ pulls through? So you can also search for very specific things if you see any links that might be interesting. But if, like me, you're not really sure what you're doing, you can just let Claude do most of the heavy lifting. So you got look through all this. Looks like this is a bigger build, so this might be okay. Okay, so we'll give this a crack one more time and then I'll stop for a sec. So one thing I just need to do, get rid of that, update this, then go back to the scraper, copy this, paste that in, see what happens. So the page opens. Looks like there needs to be a delay whilst things load, maybe. But last time we got to lineup, so we'll see if we get there. So we got to lineups again. Doesn't look like we're going to get anything else, but you can do this in chunks as well. So you can just try and build out the basic match info first, and then come back, build the next bit out, etc., etc. Doesn't look like we're going to get very far. You can see what it's doing here. Obviously, I have no idea what it's doing. Found tabs, lineups. Okay, cool. You can see a lot of elements not found and a lot of loading. Okay, so this is what we had. I like to paste this in here, and then we'll see if we had anything. Okay, So you can see we've got match ID, we've got home team, away team, round, although the date is a bit messed up. The away score is fine. The match result, sure, that's okay. And then that's it. So again, needs a lot of cleanup, but you can see how this works in chunks. But what I would try and do is, I'll actually just carry on with this for now. But I would say this is close, but not quite what we need. Please do not rebuild the scraper. Please ask me and explain how I can find where each part is coming from. Such as, let's just say team stats for now. So then we can just kind of scrape a bit of this. And I'm hoping that this is going to ask me, something around, let's try this one. Because this is interesting. Okay, so hopefully it's going to ask us something around this. Right click. Okay, here we go. Inspect, network, make sure all is selected. Okay, this is more what I wanted it to do. Let's get rid of those. Inspect, network, make sure all is selected. Don't know where all is, but I'm sure it's fine. Okay, all. Refresh the page. And we're looking for XHR or fetch. This is more what we need. So refresh the page, you see all these things that load. Then we can sort this by type. Okay, type. So we've got all these XHRs. So I'm going to just copy these over. And then I'm going to copy the fetches over as well. There's loads of scripts. Here's the fetches. Quite a few of them as well. I should expand. And then hopefully it's going to tell me where all this data is coming from. Now, the main problem you're going to run into is as we, get these good endpoints, the Claude chat is going to hit limits, which is always a pain in the ass. Click on Team Stats Request in Dev Tools, Preview, or Response. So there we go. Click on Team Stats. Within Dev Tools, what's it asking me? Bottom of image 2.2K fetch request. Yeah, okay. So this is then where all this information is, looks like. So then we can just screenshot this over and hopefully it'll say, yeah, all good. I'm wondering if this is squad ID, first name, player ID, time on bench. This doesn't look quite right, actually. So you can just have back and forth with this. This does look about right, but it just seems like there's not enough in here. So yeah, we'll see what it says. Click this thing. Okay. Don't know if it means that. So again, without this going on too long, you just need to have back and forths with this until you find the thing that you're looking for. So we could try this one. It's largest here, blah, 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 blah. So we would just look for this. Don't have to find this, to be honest. But yeah, instead of watching me do this, you get the idea. I'll come back and record another chunk in a second. Okay, so it's been 10 minutes or so, and we're making a little bit of progress now. We managed to find like this code, and going back and forth with Claude seems like there's something there because we found the timeline version, which is just the timeline here. And now we've got all of these like subsections, which look like they're kind of player stats of some sort. So like, although they're different responses, so what I also like to do is basically ask it what it needs. So if I'm saying here, right click this, something like this will also should give me a response. And then once you find it, it's usually obviously in the same structure. This is a good time to talk about this. So Claude recently nerfed their like chat lengths, and they're trying to get people to spend like triple the amount, or actually I think 10 times the amount on a big one. Okay, so this looks positive at least. You just need to find these endpoints or API endpoints. So yeah, like the okay. Click on Team Stats Request in your Network tab. Don't really know what he's asking me, but so you see this one was the one that we found. That if you scroll down, you can see it says welcome to the Adelaide Oval. And then if you go into timeline and scroll to the bottom of this, we have this message here. So we kind of know that this is where the timeline info is. Team stats. I'm not really sure what it means here, but again, this kind of is more of a real look at how I do it, just because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to just basically send it this, because that might be, that looks like the same link. I'm just going to say, honestly, these are usually a lot more difficult to build. Click on it once. So now he thinks I'm an idiot. Network tab, team stats. Network tab, team stats. I do not see. There we go. Does it want this URL? Oops. Also, when this stuff is happening, just remember that this is like, a pain in the ass and takes 5, 10, 15, 20 hours to build, 2 days. Once you have it, you can get exactly everything you need. So you see this is going to be pretty close now. So this is worth asking soonish. So the new AFL scraper, you may as well copy this. Put that in. So you can see yada, yada, yada. This looks a lot closer to what we need. Copy this. Get rid of this. So you can see key improvements. We've added this thing in, robust match ID handling. I don't know from the page URL. Okay, search for ID, okay. Actually, don't worry about that. I don't want to mess with that yet. Let's try this. I feel like we should probably try this just one game for now. Why would it change the name of the thing? Now, if you're like, I have no idea what's going on, I'm not going to be able to do this. I've only been doing it this way for 5-6 months. Before that, we used a team when we used developers to build scrapers for us. It's just, this works out as saving 5-6K a month and also time in the long run. So it's something that I recommend doing, even though it's a bit of a faff for a few days, but it does kind of make sense. Even though I don't think this is going to work. AFR. Am I being stupid? I'm probably just not looking at something properly, but the eyes are going a bit funky, so I'm just going to do this. What's wrong? And then this is going to tell me, this is how you would do it anyway, to make my point, is you would just keep going back and forth. And at the start, you have to go back and forth a lot more just because you have no idea what you're doing. And then as you get a bit better, you can just go from there. The file script name is this. Okay, I don't really know what I meant by that. It's not doing that. Using the path structure you gave me. I'm very confused now. It's probably so obvious to somebody watching. Yeah, I think we're going to do that. So, again, there's so much debugging, and if anybody's technical, you will be able to absolutely fly through this. The only issue is, if you're not, what the hell? Why is this DOS? Okay, as usual, it was just me being dumb with the names of things. And those little things get me all the time. So using API match ID, the one we already found, summary match ID, and then failed to fetch. So now we would just go back to this and say, didn't work. I think I know why this one didn't work. because where are we? To be honest, they should kind of know this. Like I'm a bit surprised they didn't. So like I still want to go to the page and actually get the information from the page, and then do it from there, because that's generally how it works. Because if we had access to the API, then we wouldn't be going through this way. We would just be going through the API. But the API only loads when somebody visits the page. So yeah, there's a load of back and forth. It's really tedious, and there's a lot of waiting around and clunkiness. But it kind of is what it is, you know. You just got to get through it and see where you go. So once this finishes loading, I will run it again and just show you if we get close. So yeah, it even confirmed that point as well. I didn't know that that 401 or 403 error confirms it, but apparently it does. Yeah, okay, that's interesting. That's also a good sign as well, just because it means we're on the right lines. Then we'll edit this. Okay. Hopefully this is the right one. And then once this gives us our final output, we will go through this. Okay, so now we're going into each game. It updated the scraper. It doesn't take too long, it just feels like it takes forever. So then we'll see if anything works on this one. Said it didn't fail, so that's a good sign. I doubt it's going to be everything in here. Yeah, still not working on these. So still not working properly. Please reload to be more robust. Similar to what we did before, going to each tab and ensuring the data is there. Then wait delay plus export, something like that. Again, usually you would do this in steps, but we'll just see how this comes out. Okay, so this one is taking a while. This is a hefty script now. I think once we run this, that'll just be the end. I'll probably do like an episode 5 of where we're like trying to finish the script, just because there's so much back and forth here that it takes a good 5-10 hours to get right, and it's not worth, you know, just waiting for me to run it, just because it's not going to be very entertaining or useful. Improving just formats of things, some delays, like things like that. Structures, looks like that should, no, that's not going to be right. That's annoying. Wonder if that works. That does not work. It's a slash, but I still don't think that's going to work either. No. Ah, that's annoying. Okay. Let's just leave that for now. So then we've added that in, and then we'll see if we get anywhere close. So we're going to open the URL. Hopefully we're going to delay and then click. We'll have a look. What's going on here? So found an API match ID, failed to find or click the team stats. That's annoying. Failed to find or click player stats, and obviously couldn't go to the Oh, that's kind of strange as well. It's weird how they get the lineup one. But yeah, what we'll do is I don't know why we're screenshotting this page. It's probably for the review of the tool itself. But you can see doing it all in one go is tough. Like if we just said, okay, we'll only focus on the output of the basic match ID, that would have been done pretty quickly. And each step does take a little bit longer each time. But the reason why I want to do it in one go is to get one export. So one like JSON file exported per game, rather than having it as like 5 of each individual one. Not that that would be the end of the world. It would just add a bit more time. So it looks like this is still loading, but I think we're pretty much done here. So I'm going to screenshot this. I'm going to carry on having a look through this stuff. Also, tool is not working too well. Not getting to. This happened with a different build as well, actually, quite recently, where like the tabs were there, but they just couldn't like get there for some reason. The main issue you're going to have is usually with the length of these chats that you can have, and then you have to go to like a new like chat, even if it's the same. You haven't hit like your like usage limit. Because see, this is writing it from scratch again. So this is, I don't know how many, maybe like close to 800 lines of code or something. This is just not gonna work because we're still actually running this now. But you see the screenshots it's taking are fine, but we're not using that in anything. This is just for like, this is just kind of like, let's see how we go. Like for debugging essentially. So it's still going. Found that many timeline events, which is not correct because we're not on the right page. Oh, we are on this page, but this is not right. Yeah, this is interesting because this is what it is like. So it's good to have like a bit more of a real kind of video, even though somewhat kind of useless apart from the first maybe like 15 minutes. But it does show you it just takes a few days to get right. You can obviously pay someone to build this out. It's not too expensive nowadays because people that know what they're looking for can use these tools, and then they know how to input the first part, which does kind of like save them a lot of time and hence saves you a bit of money. So you can do that. But it's a good skill to learn, just because once you know how to do it somewhat quickly, you can obviously then go and build these out for different sports in the future, which does really help your productivity and your like speed to build out models. So if you want to build out like, 10 different rugby leagues, for example, you could pay someone $800 per scraper, or you can learn how to build it once and then just copy it across if it's similar data that you need. Not even sure why this is not finishing either now, which is a bit strange. But once this one's done, I think we'll just call it a day there. Hopefully you can see the power of this once you debug things. In episode 5, I'll go over once we got there, and hopefully the batched one, if not just the single individual ones, and then we can go from there. Okay, any questions, let me know. Cheers.